Please don't tell your kids that. That has to be one of the biggest fallacies that we've ever been told as children. Hey guys, I hope you're all doing well and that you had a great week. To all of my house guests, come in, make yourselves at home, make yourselves comfortable. If you're passing by and you'd like to become a house guest, don't forget to hit subscribe and activate all of your notifications. I'm Chez, this is Chez M0i. Welcome to my place. So, an actual royal tour began this week, which had been described as awkward because government ministers made it clear that they wouldn't be meeting Charles and Camilla when they arrived in Australia. As you can see, this is in direct contrast to how Harry and Meghan were received when they visited while still under the firm's remit. And years later, even though they are no longer living their lives within the confines of the institution, the way the Sussexes are received in the countries they visit is no less enthusiastic. However unsuccessful this royal tour may turn out to be, the UK media, driven by the firm, will probably attempt to paint it as a resounding success. Now, speaking of things taking place in Australia, here's what prompted the subject of today's video.
Well, you've heard that old expression, pot calling the kettle black. It doesn't get more relevant than this. Meghan Markle claims that she is one of the most bullied people in the world. She was speaking to a group of girls at a mental health session in California. These young girls all struggling and trying to find their way in the world. And so Meghan, of course, made it all about herself. Larissa May, who's from told Vanity Fair, we did an activity where we talked through a bunch of scenarios and Meghan talked about being one of the most bullied people in the entire world. You know, part of being a royal and one of the wonderful things about the royal family is traditionally they've not made it about themselves, but they've drawn attention to other people and let them take the spotlight, but not Meghan Markle. She's got to be the centre of attention everywhere she goes. And even with a bunch of little girls struggling with mental health issues, no, Meghan is the real victim in the room. But not only that, she's got to be a bit careful because, of course, there were claims of bullying against Meghan Markle from palace staff who used to call her, quote, dictator in high heels and talk about the fact that she could, quote, reduce grown men to tears. Well, she certainly reduced Harry to something. So she ought to be careful, Liz, with some of the stuff she says. But this is typical Meghan Markle and exactly the reason why I think the royal family are better off without her.
Leopard can't change its spots, and the Yoko Ono of the royal family will not be changing her spots anytime soon.
When you said pot calling the kettle black, I thought you were going to go down a racial road there. I was like hanging on for dear life for a moment. I thought, oh no, he's not going to do it, is he? Anyway, good save by Mr. McPherson here.
From start to finish, this 1 minute 44 second clip is a prime example of what Meghan is talking about. The fact that she's vilified for expressing a personal view is one of the many gaslighting tactics adopted by the Murdoch empire. Meghan is only considered royal when they want to use her as an example of how they think one should not behave. The female contributor in this piece typifies the individuals I'm going to speak about later, and notice how they always have to slip in a reference to Meghan's ethnicity as one of their bullying darts. One can literally feel the seething hatred coming from the screen. Here's an article from a Canadian website called The Kit. This article is taken from thekit.ca, published on the 15th of October 2024, written by Sarah Lang. The headline reads, Meghan Markle called herself one of the most bullied people in the world, and then the bullies came for her some more. Is Meghan Markle the most bullied person in the world? Well, that's certainly how she apparently described herself to a group of tweens last week, and then had her point proven in thousands of comments on social media in reaction. The Duchess of Sussex was a surprise guest at a screen-free afternoon of games, friendship bracelets, colouring, and some frank talk about social media, per Vanity Fair, put on by Girls Inc. of Greater Santa Barbara to launch its new digital wellness programme aimed at young women. Meghan, whose Archwell charity is providing some of the funding for this new initiative, joined the group of girls to share some of her own experiences with social media. We don't have much of what she actually said beyond one of the event organisers telling VF that Meghan talked about being one of the most bullied people in the world, and that her presence at the event made it all the more powerful for the girls who were in the room. That little bit of second-hand reported speech, however, was all it took to bring the bullies back out into the schoolyard. Case in point, the more than 1,600 comments on a People magazine Instagram post linking to the story. You've literally been given a chance to make a change, but instead choose to be a victim, said one comment with 650 likes. Always making it about yourself, said another, while one more exhorted her to go cry in your $1 million mansion. And then the article goes on to talk about the bullying allegations made against Meghan that have resurfaced. And I talked about this in a previous video where I was showing that the opposite was true, and that this royal family investigation, they didn't want to release details, and it's simply because the allegations are unfounded. The article continues, and while yes, it's possible to be both a bully and the bullied, it's also interesting to see the timing this week, as if catching the tailwind of always profitable anti-Meghan sentiment, of a source, anonymous yet again, telling the Spectator that Queen Elizabeth actually thought her American granddaughter-in-law was evil, and she saw straight through her. The famously discreet Queen said this, apparently, at a drinks reception held just 1 month before her death. It was a startling sentence to hear from the most forgiving woman on earth, this source added. It is also, of course, hearsay that's impossible to prove or disprove. Let me just stay here for a moment. Again, an anonymous source. Why are these sources so cowardly? If you're so big and bold and brave, why don't you say who you are? Why don't you allow yourself to be identified? That's the first point. Second point, with regard to Queen Elizabeth, she's not, I don't remember her being backward in coming forward. This is the first I've ever heard, her supposedly referencing Meghan as evil, and that she saw straight through her. Now, if that's the case, if she was so on it, why did she allow Harry to marry Meghan in the first place? Because apparently she had the final say. So this literally doesn't make sense. Why would she want her grandson to marry such an evil woman? that you are discrediting Queen Elizabeth. You're basically saying she has no sense then. And next point, number 3. She apparently said this at a drinks reception held just 1 month before her death. Now, we know that this woman was not doing any engagements like that. Well, that's what we've been led to understand. The last picture we saw of her was 2 days before she died, when she had greeted Liz Truss as the Prime Minister. Short-lived tenure. And she did not look great. The Queen did not look great. So I can't believe that she would be at a drinks reception when she was so ill. I could be wrong, but I don't believe that. And finally, where it says it was a startling sentence to hear from the most forgiving woman on earth. These people seem to have a very short memory, because she wasn't very forgiving of her uncle, who abdicated from the throne, and her father, who himself wasn't in good health, had to take over, and he subsequently died. And I believe that Queen Elizabeth actually blamed her uncle. She literally saw him as the catalyst for her father's death. She may have forgiven him later on. She may have forgiven her uncle later on, as he was approaching death, but she was not the most forgiving woman on earth. So I just wanted to dwell on this paragraph, because I'm like, no, this to me is unbelievable. Okay. The article continues. This is not the first time that Meghan has spoken about her experiences with online bullying. Just a few months ago, it came up in an interview with CBS's Sunday Morning, when she and Harry launched their initiative to help parents who have lost their children as a result of social media abuse. I haven't really scraped the surface of my experience, she told the network, when the interviewer tied this new work with Meghan's own admission to Oprah that she experienced ideation as a result of online and tabloid bullying when she was a working royal. But I do think that I would never want someone else to feel that way, and I would never want someone else to be making those sort of plans. And the last paragraph says, and most pertinent to today's discussion, I would never want someone else to not be believed. So, in light of what Meghan had reportedly said recently, and with the probability that online bullying was a contributory aspect to the end of Liam Payne's life on Wednesday in Argentina, I wanted to open up the conversation because I'm interested to know your thoughts. In previous videos, I've talked about the men who view Meghan through the lens of misogyny and discrimination, but in this video, I want to take a look at 4 women who, quite frankly, would throw their witches' hats up in the air with delight if, God forbid, they had succeeded in driving Meghan to her demise. Let's start with a woman who labelled herself as a so-called friend of Meghan. This article is from the express.co.uk, published on the 13th of October 2024. I won't read the entire article, but I may add some of my own commentary. The headline reads, Meghan Markle slammed by former friend after stealing show at charity event. Lizzie Cundy has hit out at her former friend Meghan Markle as the two almost reunited at a charity event. The media personality accused Prince Harry's wife of making the LA Children's Hospital Gala all about herself in scathing remarks. Speaking on GB News on Saturday, Lizzie, who previously claimed Meghan ghosted her, sarcastically said, I bet she was delighted to see me. Taking a swipe at her former friend, she continued, it's the event to be seen at. I was hoping she would do something for the charity, maybe do a speech, but it appeared she was just there for the photo op. Let me just pause here for a second. In last week's video, I gave a full overview as to why Meghan was there, according to People magazine. So this is the person who ran off to Richard Eden and told him all of this. You know, Richard Eden had relayed that Meghan was only there for the photo opportunity, and I covered that in last week's video. Despite being in close quarters to each other, Lizzie and Meghan managed to avoid each other. Lizzie was seated at the top table while Meghan was surrounded by her high security team. The 56-year-old socialite, remember that word, had befriended the Duchess of Sussex in 2013 when they met at a charity event in London. Lizzie recounted the meeting as she previously said Meghan had asked if she could be set up with a British guy. Lizzie said, "We were having a girly chat and then she said, 'Do you know any famous guys? I'm single and I really love English men.' So I said, 'We'll go out and find you someone.'" The duo reconvened the next day at another high-profile event in London where Lizzie observed Meghan's sociable nature, saying, "I remember her asking about my boys. She was very interested and asking lots of questions. Usually you find actresses just talk about themselves. She was really fun, really sweet. I liked her." So what happened, Lizzie? Unfortunately, Lizzie claimed she was dropped by Meghan when the latter began her relationship with Prince Harry, leaving her to discover the news on the web. Lizzie previously told the press, "I texted saying, 'OMG, I heard about Harry,' and she was like, 'Yeah, I know. We'll try and hook up,' before adding, disappointed, she was probably told by the palace to end contact with people she befriended in the media. I was literally ghosted by her." And this is where I want to pause. And she's basically answered her own question, because this is where I liken her to Morgan. The palace would have instructed Meghan, and Harry himself would have advised her to cut ties with these media types, especially these tabloidy types. So instead of blaming Meghan, why don't you actually blame the palace? You've speculated that it was the palace that may have told Meghan to end contact with you, but you still, how many years later, you still want to blame Meghan because of your sour grape mentality. She's not in contact with you anymore. Why can't you, as a 56-year-old woman, accept that? Why are you still hanging on? Do you not have enough friends of your own? Why is this bugging you so much? I don't understand. As an aging media personality who had an acrimonious divorce back in 2012 and is fighting tooth and nail to stay relevant, you can probably see why she would be jealous of Meghan, who is constantly in the public's consciousness, whether she likes it or not, is married to a man who absolutely adores her, and who doesn't need to lean on her husband's name to attract wealth. Number 2. Lady Colin Campbell. Born George William Ziadi, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to call her by her post-surgery name, Georgia, because even her ex-husband, who can't stand her, doesn't get why she's still using his name. Like Cundy, Georgia is described as a socialite. This word socialite is quite interesting to me, so I wanted to find out what it actually means.
Socialite.
The Oxford English Dictionary defines socialite as a person who is prominent in fashionable or wealthy society, a person who is fond of social activities and entertainment. And there's an alternative definition from oxfordlearnersdictionaries.com, which states that a socialite is a person who likes to be associated with celebrities and with a fashionable, expensive lifestyle, and is often active on social media. Is it a stretch for me to speculate that socialite is another word for social climber? Therefore, aren't Georgia and Lizzie social climbers? The same thing that Meghan has been accused of being. Now, based on the information we've looked at so far, we've established that Lizzie Cundy and Georgia Ziadi are social climbers who, in order to make a living, can only use the names of their ex-husbands who can't stand them. Number 3, Angela Levin. Unsurprisingly, her website highlights her achievements as an award-winning journalist. Before Meghan arrived on the scene, Levan previously had access to Harry in order to write a biography, which is still being sold on Amazon. So it would appear that the reason this immature senior citizen unashamedly despises Meghan is because access to Harry has been denied. Her obsession with the Sussexes is extremely unhealthy, but I think she perceives Harry no longer allowing access to him as a form of rejection. I decided to dig a little deeper and learn about the relationship she had with her mother. This article is from thedailymail.co.uk in their female supplement published on the 27th of February 2017, and the heading reads, "My mother was a cruel and horrid woman. It's taken her years to confront it, but Angela Levin makes a taboo-breaking admission and reveals why she believes countless others suffer just like her." Aged just 3, I decided enough was enough. I had to leave home. I gathered my favourite dress patterned with bambies and flowers, my potty and my doll. I vividly remember taking a deep breath and telling my mother, "You're not a nice mummy, and I don't want to live with you anymore." I have no recollection of what my mother said, just that she didn't try to stop me. And she's very descriptive about the whole episode of her trying to leave. And then she says, "This might sound like the kind of comical anecdote mothers and daughters laugh over as they remember childhood days. Instead, this is proof that even at such a young age, I was already aware that my now late mother, Florence, was a difficult, often horrid parent who could be very cruel to me. She often said she wished she'd called me Devil." Sorry. "Rather than Angela, because I'd never given her a moment's pleasure." Wow. Okay. "Her moods changed like the wind. I never knew where I was with her or how she'd react. Capricious and irrational, anything and nothing could trigger her temper. She endlessly tried to demean me and put me down, telling me I wouldn't ever amount to anything, a comment I was later to learn commonly used by controlling parents. When, years later, after I'd married, I told her I was pregnant with my son, who was to be her first grandchild, she instantly said, 'I hope the baby is like you. Then you'll appreciate what I had to put up with.'" And she continues on and on telling the story. I'm not going to read all of it because, I'm not that interested, to be quite honest. I just wanted to give you a bit of context and just highlight the fact that, you know, she behaves as though she's whiter than white. She's not a nice woman. She's quite horrid. But it helps me to understand where that came from. No, that should be no justification. But don't paint yourself to be something you're not. It could be argued that Levin feels the need to project the negative feelings she has towards her deceased mother onto Meghan because Meghan, like Levin's mother, is not bothered about her. And really, why should Meghan be bothered about this vile woman who Meghan herself hasn't done anything to? Furthermore, as much as Levan describes her mother as a cruel, horrid woman, the lack of self-awareness indicates that she can't see that the apple has fallen not that far from the tree. Number 4, Emily Giffin. This American author, whose husband attacked a reviewer who gave her a 1-star review, was forced to apologise for vile comments she made about Meghan in 2020. This article is from newsweek.com, published on the 30th of August 2024, and the headline reads, "Queen Camilla praises author who called Meghan Markle unmaternal." A best-selling American author who publicly apologised after calling Meghan Markle phony and unmaternal in 2020 has been praised by Queen Camilla, receiving a personal letter from the royal after the pair were introduced at a literary event earlier in the year. Emily Giffin, author of the 2005 New York Times best-selling novel Something Borrowed, has revealed to her social media followers that she received a personal letter from the Queen in July. In an image of the note posted to the author's official Instagram account on August 28th, Camilla thanked Giffin for sending her a copy of her new novel, writing that she would much look forward to reading in the peace and quiet of Scotland. The Queen told the author it was a great pleasure to meet you during her second annual Queen's Reading Room Literary Festival at Hampton Court Palace earlier in the summer, and that she hoped our paths will cross again in the near future. There they are. It is not known whether Camilla was aware of Giffin's past comments about her stepdaughter-in-law Meghan at the time of writing the letter. Giffin faced backlash in 2020 after uploading a series of critical posts to her Instagram account directed at Meghan after the Duchess marked the first birthday of her son Prince Archie by releasing a video of herself reading him a story. A text exchange posted to her Instagram stories in response to the video labelled Meghan unmaternal and such a phony. In a separate post, she described the video of Archie as being the Meghan show and questioned why the Duchess hadn't let Harry read on camera. The posts earned swift backlash from fans of the royal couple, who had split from the monarchy just months earlier and relocated to the US, with some saying the author's criticism was racist. Giffin issued a swift apology to Instagram, posting an old image of herself posing with cardboard cutouts of Harry and Meghan. Okay. In the caption, she said she regularly posts in an unfiltered way and that she's very interested in the British monarchy. To be clear, I absolutely loved that a biracial American woman was marrying into the royal family, she wrote. It seemed a wonderful, happy thing for everyone. I celebrated their wedding by hosting a gathering here at my home and posting many, many photos. Further, I was appalled by any signs of racism against her. Over recent months, my feelings about both Harry and Meghan have changed, but I can say from the bottom of my heart that my criticism of Meghan has never had anything to do with her race. Further, I understood why she wanted to leave the monarchy and carve out her own path. I do, however, find fault with the way both she and Harry handled things, and those feelings bled over in later posts, including the ones today. I can see how some of my posts may have felt mean-spirited and could be construed as having racial undertones. It was not my intent, but I understand that intent and impact are two very different things, and I'm truly sorry for the negative impact. I need to be more careful about the impact of my words, she said, per USA Today, adding that to express legitimate criticism is valid, but that her reactions to the May 2020 Meghan video were not valid. They were just mean. I'm going to do better, she said. At the time, Meghan did not publicly respond to Giffin's criticism or apology. Yeah, she doesn't need to. She's above all that. Meghan is above all that foolishness. My cynicism dictates that this woman's attempt at an apology was completely insincere, and she only felt the need to act swiftly because she was too weak to withstand the immediate backlash. Each of these women are opportunists. Each of these women are desperate to become a globally recognised name, like Meghan is a globally recognised name. None of these women are actual supporters of other women, and each of these women harbour bitter resentment towards Meghan because, by virtue of the fact that she is of African descent, they view her as the uppity Negro who, by being at the top of the social pyramid, has somehow taken their place. These are just 4 women in a sea of thousands, possibly millions, who view Meghan in the same way. Maybe you're one of them. Do you have the words "be kind" in your Instagram bio? If you do, maybe you should remove it. Are you a pillar of your community? If so, maybe you're a pillar that needs to be replaced. How does your conscience allow such conduct in front of your children, especially your daughters? Are you a woman who has the audacity to complain about the lack of allyship with women when you're one of many who contribute towards that lack? I want to bring your attention to one final article. I want you to note the date it was published, with the understanding that Meghan's reported comment last week is 100% rooted in reality. This article is from Elle.com, published on the 8th of March 2019, and the headline reads, "Most racist and anti-Meghan Markle trolling comes from just 20 accounts, new study reveals." Hope Not Hate have revealed new data on the scope of Meghan Markle trolling. Days after Kensington Palace released new social media guidelines in the hopes of curbing rampant sexist and racist bullying aimed at the Duchesses of Cambridge and Sussex, campaign group Hope Not Hate have released new statistics that have shocked the world, centred on the abuse that pregnant Duchess Meghan Markle receives online. The study has narrowed down most of the racist and sexist commentary to just 20 online accounts. It's no secret that the proud biracial mother-to-be faces everything from coded press coverage to flagrantly racist insults daily. Even in LUK's own Instagram comments sections, we have seen the sorts of hateful words reserved solely for the former Suits actress. Now, a campaign group who have in the past helped to push back against the spurious narratives of right-wing groups like the BNP and EDL has trawled through 5,200 abusive messages aimed at the 37-year-old in the last 2 months and made a staggering discovery. Of these thousands of messages, 3,600 tweets were sent from just 20 accounts, meaning 70% of the trolling in January and February were created by these few people whose entire online presence has been dedicated to the bullying of the philanthropist. According to the Daily Mail, these messages ranged from thinly veiled negative comments to out-and-out racist abuse. Some accounts are pushing the conspiracy theory that Meghan has been donning a fake bump and that she and Prince Harry have in fact opted for surrogacy. We despair. If Meghan and the Duke of Sussex had decided to choose surrogacy, that would be totally their decision. However, as much as we don't want to believe Meghan looks this good at 8 months pregnant, it's the truth. Has anything changed in the 5 years since this article was written? If anything has changed, it's been for the worst. The absolute worst. If you have a similar character to any of the 4 women I've described, all the cosmetic treatments, the social status, or recognized success in your field will never be able to conceal the type of person you really are. And remember, as much as you desperately want Meghan to be gone for good, catalysed by your relentless bullying, Meghan won't be the one experiencing the consequences of your insecurity, deflection, projection, and envy. Through your own vicious words, you will be the one who will have to reap what you've sown.
Guys, this week has been very, very, I think the word I'm going to use is unsettling, okay? Wednesday, you guys must know what happened on Wednesday with regard to this whole Liam Payne thing. Now, do you recall this nursery rhyme, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me"? Guys, please don't tell your kids that. That has to be one of the biggest fallacies that we've ever been told as children. Words do hurt. And just seeing the relentless content with regard to Liam Payne. I mean, I knew about this. I was just working on my laptop and then I get a call from my daughter. You guys know that she lives abroad. And she called me. We had spoken the day before for, you know, when we speak, it's a minimum of 1 hour. We're on the phone all the time. We'd spoken the night before, the Tuesday. So when she called me on the Wednesday evening, immediately my heart jumped because I thought, what's happened? You know, as a mum, you will do that for all the mums watching. So I was like, oh, what's wrong? She goes, Mum. I said, what's wrong? She said, Liam Payne's dead. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And the thing was, literally the previous week, stuff was coming up in my feed on my phone, my social media feed about Liam Payne. I don't think about Liam Payne. I know who he is because I saw his very first X Factor audition. You know, I've heard about bits and pieces. I even watched 3 years ago his podcast with Stephen Bartlett on Diary of a CEO. So I'd known about his substance abuse and all that. But what came up in my feed last week was with regard to his ex-girlfriend taking him to court, blah, 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 because he was harassing her, XYZ. I didn't really take much interest because it's like, okay, celebrity stuff, which I don't really take an interest in anyway. But when she said this to me, I was literally stunned. I couldn't even speak because, huh? Do you know what I mean? It's like, what happened? Because I didn't see anything on, you know, flash up on my phone like notifications. I don't know how she knew because usually I'm phoning her to say, oh, did you hear what happened? Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no, because they don't get the news like we do over here. So anyway, after we'd finished talking, I came off and I went online and then it started to, you know, reports started to emerge, this and that, and saying that he fell. And because I had said to my daughter, immediately I'd said to her, and I shouldn't have rushed to judgment, but it turns out that that's most likely what it was. I said, I think he's taken something in terms of substance. That's immediately where my mind went because it just didn't add up what had happened. So you have that, you have the, you know, whether it's alcohol, drugs, whatever, substance abuse, you have that, you have the fact that this ex-girlfriend is doing what she's doing, and that's all public. And then you add into that the social media trolling, which was relentless. And the thing, because my daughter was saying that to me, you know, he gets abused online all the time. I mean, that's her generation. So she'd be more up to date with all of that stuff than I would be. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, wow, people are desperately wicked. People are desperately wicked. And even with the context of, you know, apparently him, how he's treated people. And it's like, okay. But if that's not bad enough, after he's passed, the trolling continues. That's what got me. To this day, as I'm making this video, the trolling continues. And it's like, wow. So when Meghan had made that statement, I don't understand why people were surprised, because they've taken it out of context, they've isolated it and they've weaponized it against her. But it doesn't make the statement any less true. And my mind has not gone to, oh, how could she say that? I've said to my child, okay, because I've been through things. This is before social media, because people would whisper behind your back and then you'd hear it back and they'd look at you funny and stuff like that. I've been through all of that growing up, even now in my adulthood. But the way I deal with it now is completely different. And I said to her when she was a child, people will not like you, but they will have no reason. They won't be able to give you a reason why. They just won't like you. And there are people like that. And I said, because of the way you are, because you're quite confident in yourself, you know who you are, people will not like you. People, that makes people uncomfortable. So she is quite secure and she's, you know, she moves through life. She doesn't let anything faze her. And this is why I have so much time for Meghan, because, yeah, I believe she is one of the most bullied people in the world. I don't think she's come to that conclusion just on a whim. She doesn't see the statements that are made about her, but she hears about them, but for her mental health, she doesn't see them. And the fact that she practices meditation without fail, that's what keeps her centered. That's what keeps her grounded. Other people choose to deal with that in a different way, such as Payne, dealing with it through substance abuse. You know, I choose to deal with stuff like that by making sure I go to the park, be amongst, you know, be in nature. It centers me, it grounds me. People have different ways of dealing with this stuff, okay? But yeah, people are just very, very, very evil. And like I said, he's gone and they're still trolling him, still making fun of this guy. He's talked about his mental health. Meghan's talked about her mental health. Meghan is never believed. They want to see Meghan 6 foot under. That's what these people want. And even then, God forbid, if that were to happen, they would still troll her like they're trolling Payne. And that's why I have no qualms in saying that these 4 women that I've talked about, they would be happy. They would be very happy. They would be dancing if that happened to Meghan. You know, whatever manner that happened in, they would be happy because they want to see her gone. You know, what other conclusion can I draw from that? Because why are you, and again, I've mentioned this on occasion in various videos. The first video I did when I talked about Meghan is the whole Jeremy Clarkson situation, because my thinking is, what did she do? What did she do for you to say that? And I will forever ask that question, because to this day, I don't know what the answer is. No one can say what has she actually done. You will bully a person, but you can't say what she's done, because you will just jump on the bandwagon and say, oh, she lied. What did she lie about? Everyone talks about the curtsy that she did, the mock curtsy that she did in their Netflix documentary. Okay, Americans don't curtsy. What's the big deal about that? Did you see the curtsy that she did, the actual curtsy that she did at the Queen's funeral? Did you see that? The deepest curtsy I've ever seen. But no one talks about that. They want to destroy this woman. God forbid. That's what I say. God forbid. You have to be mentally tough. Some people are, and some people are not. The fact that she has people that support her, the fact that she has people that love her, the fact that she has a purpose in life, even that people are angry about because she has stuff to do. And my mind goes to Harry also, because Harry went through a phase where he was abusing substances because mentally he was not okay. Obviously following the death of his mum, and, you know, everything I imagine was really overwhelming for him. Can you imagine if social media was around at that time, and the format it is in today, if it was around in Harry's time when he was dealing with that? Can you imagine? Can you imagine? It was bad enough when the press were hounding him, following his every move, reporting on what he was doing, who he was with. You know, it was bad enough then, but can you imagine if social media was around at that time? I dread to think. And it's not out of the realms of possibility to think that a similar fate wouldn't take place. God forbid. You know, the fact that these guys want to separate Meghan from Harry, isolate them, you know. Why would Harry come back to Britain? Why? I live here and I can feel the toxicity. You know, saw him surfing at the beginning, you know, in the week. Harry is living his best life, albeit it was a man-made, you know, waves and stuff, but he was living his best life. And, you know, they criticise him for that, not remembering that Charles has done that in the past. Surfed. I don't know. People have too much energy for the wrong things. Because while you're sat there behind your keyboard, you know that you would never be able to say these things to the person's face. I did a video, I can't remember which video it was, but I included a screenshot of a headline, I think it was from the Daily Mail, where they had these 4 random women, just 4 out of thousands, who were keyboard warriors, said all of these things about Meghan. I think it was around the time she was about to get married or just before. And they had the 4 of those faces plastered up on the front page, and they had their names and their occupations. One was she went to church, and you know, another one was a grandma. Another one was I can't remember whether she was a businesswoman, and then there was another one who was a mum, and she, you know, she was trying to run away. She's like, oh, you know, I don't want people to know who I am. Leave me alone, leave me alone, leave me alone. Why didn't you leave your keyboard alone? That's the real question. They talk about climate change, what it's doing to our planet, you know, all of these things that are affecting us as a human race. You know, what's more concerning is it's not the climate change thing for me. It's the toxic viciousness of people's mouths. That's what's more damaging. That's what's more damaging. And our kids see these things. They see it online. And they, you know, they become desensitized, and they think, oh, it's all right to say that because my mum has said that, or my dad has said that, or my uncle has said that, or my grandma has said that. They think it's okay because you've done it. That's what we should really be concerned about. But people are not concerned because they don't think. I've said this before. There's been a scientific study that shows that most people, the majority of humans, only use 10% of their brain capacity. You know, you could almost draw the conclusion that it's too painful for people to actually think. That's why it's easy to be manipulated by mainstream media, because they will tell you how to think. They will tell you what they want you to do, because a lot of people, they cannot think for themselves. That's why it's only a small percentage of people that have a spirit of entrepreneurship, because people, as much as they hate their 9-to-5 jobs, the thought of not being told what to do scares them even more. They will put up with rubbish in their 9-to-5 jobs because they can only function if they're told what to do. And this is why the lockdown era was so, I'm not going to say successful, but from the point of view of these governments, it did what they needed it to do. A lot of people passed, not from the sea, but from the mental challenges that they faced during that period. I mean, I could talk about this for such a long time, but I've got stuff to do, you've got stuff to do. This video is going to be too long. But one other thing that I would say is with regard to that Sky News Australia clip, when the guy said, oh, you know, Meghan, it's always about her, you know, she's made herself the victim, and people online were saying the same thing. Okay, how is that different to Kate's video that came out recently? She wasn't with anyone that was facing the same predicament as her. She was skipping through the woods. How is that all not about her then? I don't understand. Okay. What she has supposedly gone through, it was invisible before it's even visible. To this day, people don't even think that she had that condition, because outwardly she looks great. Whereas patients that have suffered with it and, you know, have come into my comment section and told me that how they've literally suffered, and they don't have anything to the outward appearance as Kate. Okay. But she's believed because she's Kate. Meghan is not believed for when she's spoken about her mental health struggles She's not believed. Liam Payne spoke about his mental health struggles. And, you know, people trolled him still. But it's become visible now because of what happened on Wednesday. I mean, why do you think that Meghan and Harry are so concerned about online bullying, especially for children? And this is what she was talking about during the week. And whoever's taken that statement out of context, isolated it, I will never vilify her. Even if it's, you know, she said it. If she said it, she said it. What's wrong with what she said? That's what I'd like to know. Because she is one of the most bullied people in the world. It's very clear. She hasn't said anything wrong. And if it's only to let these young girls know it's happening to me, but I'm still here. And maybe she gave them coping strategies for their, you know, age-appropriate coping strategies. We don't know what was said, but you see these little I'm going to call them demons, these media demons. If Meghan is so irrelevant, why do you latch onto everything that she does? Focus on the future queen. I keep saying this in these videos. Focus on the future queen, because apparently she's very relevant. So why not focus on her? I don't have a problem with that. Focus on her. If Meghan is, how can you focus on someone who's irrelevant? Does that make sense? That makes zero sense. I don't know, guys. Do you know, I wish I could, excuse me, I wish I could actually have a group of us sat in a room and just talk about this stuff, like in a live environment. I don't know. You know, they say be careful what you wish for. I'd actually like to hear what you guys have to say, because I'm so interested, because I know it's not just me that thinks these things. This video is going to be really long, guys, so I'm going to wrap up now. If your thoughts were provoked in any way, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet become a house guest, don't forget to hit subscribe and activate all of your notifications. I want to take this opportunity to thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and you shall catch me in the next video.